Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's my birthday today, by the way.
What's that?
My birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Had a
Cool
cool
coincidence.
birthday. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a very nice day. I got flooded.
Good.
I went to buy some bread this morning for Noreen, and in the village we have a nice little old hippie village here on the west coast. It's bottom left on Ireland, and was famous in the '60s for picking mushrooms and
Yeah,
old grass. And
nice.
and they organized some with the COVID thing now. They organized some local baking thing and all that stuff. And I
Mm.
walked in and they asked me how I am, and I just felt so much love. Like, and then
Yeah,
the women usually get it easier, and you can see the mask, and then the eyes got all teary. Like it was beautiful. Like when you
yeah,
talk sometimes about love, it just
yeah,
comes out of you, and
definitely.
and then it was just fantastic. Like it was really really good.
Yeah, when you can find another human that isn't as conditioned by culture as normal.
Yeah.
In other words, when you find another wild human, sometimes sometimes things like tears happen just because it's so grateful to encounter that energy, which unfortunately seems too rare in this world.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I do meet it almost daily. But I'm very very lucky
yeah,
here.
right.
I
Yeah.
have I have like for example I have a 21-year-old working with me. He's very deep.
Oh, good, good.
Sometimes I talk about that spiritual stuff all the time. So
Yeah.
sometimes I ask him after a few months. I said to him, "Do you still like talking about all that?" He said, "Yeah." And he's an introvert. I'm extrovert, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And, so usually he doesn't say much to anyone else.
Yeah.
But he's relaxed with me, and he's just very, very deep, very deep.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
smokes every evening this super strong skunk. He can't help himself, and but I take one puff and I'm gone for 6 hours or tripping. One puff, it's incredible, but it doesn't stop him from being really, really cool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I noticed about the awakened state is it almost doesn't matter what you put on top of it. If
uh,
you take an awakened human and feed it beers,
yeah,
now it's a drunk awakened human. If
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
feed it pot, now it's a stoned drunk awakened human. Like it doesn't take it away,
yeah,
but it might take some of the clarity away, or it
yeah,
depends. It really depends on the person, and it depends on what they're doing and how it interacts with them.
yeah.
Yeah.
It gives me a sense when you said that. I get a sense of a field. You know,
Hmm.
you
What
put
it
things.
feels like, it feels like a two-dimensional sheet along the back of the body, and it's just
Yeah,
this background awareness that can
yeah,
be noticed, and the noticing of that doesn't really happen until the moment of awakening or the momentless moment of awakening, and suddenly there's this background awareness that's really what you are, and that awareness is aware of the seeming character thinking that it's experiencing. But really, you, as this background awareness, are experiencing the illusion of the character experiencing. It's kind of
yeah,
like looking at a character on a video game.
yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah,
kind of experiencing what it's experiencing, but it's not.
yeah. Yeah.
You're
You
pretending
see,
to
and I,
experience what it seems to be experiencing, but
yeah,
it's not experiencing anything.
yeah. That's you see, I have a sense of that back two-dimensional, but then the character, like now, getting worked up about the old program switches on, then it's still, Deva, like I do a lot of stuff with him, and he tends to, I don't know if he's from Northern California, and he says that the program is so perfect, and it's distracting, and so when the emotion goes away, then that character, which is for you still a character, for me it becomes real.
Yeah.
You know, I get invested.
Sure. Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
I
we've
want better
invested
outcome.
all of our time and energy into it. We've invested a lifetime
Pardon?
of efforting
Sorry?
into this character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
it's hard to
there
let
is
go of
definitely
that.
that. Yeah. Yeah, not easy. I mean, it's everything I did feels also like I'm in a place now where everything I did, the efforting and so feels yeah, feels like it's not working or something, you know. It's
Yeah.
still I still like to sit and stuff, and because it just gives me beautiful feelings and energetically
Yeah.
it's very nice. But I do, but I'm also I don't know. It's just like even the last few weeks mainly. I went to Germany, for example, and you know, it was a journey like testing here and there, and I didn't know what they require tomorrow. I had to cross so many countries, and
Yeah.
so there I go a bit edgy then, you know, and I got nervous or you know, and then there was always this what you told that background thing was soothing me then at times, you know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I didn't lose it completely. Usually I would go completely panicky. So
Yeah.
it
It's
was
like
always
the eye of a
soothing and
hurricane,
holding
you
or
know?
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there is something different now in a way that it's I'm not so I don't feel distant from it anymore, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that it doesn't. I'm sure there's somewhere still that game going on. Maybe I do that, I get something or so, but I don't feel that kind of distance anymore. And
Yeah.
I feel also a different response from the people around me.
Yeah.
And when I start to feel when I'm able to help people, you know, like there are certain people I have them on the phone or they get lost or something, and when I feel that the connection is there, I feel so just it just feels so great, like you know, when I can calm them or connect to themselves or something
Yeah.
like that. It has this incredible response,
Yeah.
and
I call that
so
non-dual bliss. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's beautiful, like
Like if you give let's say you give a homeless person $5 and you
yeah,
both feel bliss from that for whatever reason. It's like it's beyond the two of you what's happening in that moment.
yeah, yeah,
And it's like a non-dual bliss. Yeah.
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah,
And that's really the
yeah,
only time the average human experiences non-dual bliss if they haven't woke up is in moments like that. Just
yeah,
little moments where the your own personal strategy is put to the sidelines for a moment, you know.
yeah.
And you might not yeah.
Almost by mistake. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Obviously there's no mistake, but it's all there's like a spontaneous arising and there's an emotional feeling between two people, but it has nothing to do with either one of the people. It's hard to explain.
mm.
But if you meet or even just encounter like gratitude, for example, it's like
Yeah,
if you help somebody, it just inherently feels good. Human beings are programmed to be social creatures and to be compassionate toward their own species at very least. And so we have
yeah,
these programmed responses within the body and then the psychological mechanisms that it feels good to be loving.
yeah, yeah. Maybe you could explain it that it's the actual meeting of, you know, if you give a homeless person a fiver or something, that in that becomes this meeting of a similar feeling or something, just a meeting, like
Yeah, it's like
independent actually from the people
acknowledging
itself.
it's almost like acknowledging that you are them, or at very least, or if you want to look at it from or I could debunk my whole argument from a very selfish perspective. Basically, if you see a homeless person, it causes you to suffer. And then you want to end your suffering. So you give them $5 and now you don't feel guilt or shame.
Yeah. That would be me. No, that version would be mine, you know.
Maybe we're all that way.
I get a great kick. Yeah, but I'm in the Enneagram 7. Like, I think like, oh, if the family is okay, if everything is okay, then I can be okay, you know. So I'm spreading the law for pure selfish reasons, you know.
Yes. Or, you know, can anyone around you really be okay if you're not? So everything boils down to a type of selfishness, and yet selfish and selfless kind of bleed through each other because it's all you and none of it's you.
Yeah, I get that too a bit, yeah.
But yeah, humans have a profound depth for love. You know, it's part of what makes us human is we're extremely social, extremely socially adept. I think all animals seek connection. And since this world is a fantasy of every self and other, all in the same place, but yeah, so it's all ultimately selfish, and that's not a bad thing, you know. And people sometimes ask me when I talk to them, I say, why are you taking the time, you know, to, like, if I'm talking to a seeker or somebody who's still suffering, they'll say, well, what, you know, sometimes they'll get paranoid or they'll wonder what the motive is for somebody to even try to help them. They'll say, well, why, you know, what are you getting out of this?
Yeah.
Like,
That's always my friend's question, always.
And I tell them, I say, I'm trying to end my suffering over there. I'm trying to increase my awakening over there. That's what I get out of it. I get enlightened over there. Isn't that what you want? That's what I want. Well, don't you already have it? Yeah, over here. I want it over there now. I'm selfish like that. I want all of me to wake up. I think if everybody woke up, civilization would crumble, though. I don't think it would work.
Yeah, I had all those dreams. But, you know, I'm a typical seeker, so I had all those dreams. I thought, like, and being a 7, I was always invested in future events. So I thought if everyone would wake up, then civilization would change or something like that.
Might crumble.
Alia said recently something about, he thinks, yeah, but Alia said recently something about that. I think that waking up is probably not going to do. Growing up might help, he said, you know?
Yeah. And, growing up, waking up, cleaning up, showing up. Yeah.
And, but, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, I think with my enlightenment drive, or with my seeking the other side or something to find what I was looking for, which obviously always thought it wasn't here. With that kind of drive, I was also looking at the same time for some, you know, for the whole world. You know, everything was considered in this kind of, if everyone wakes up, if I wake up, everyone wakes up, everything was done. An increased feeling of this here, or so. It's that drive seems to. It's literally future starts, like the word gets boring for me, and there's I don't know. That's very unusual, like, you know. And
yeah, there's a dynamic interplay, you know. If everybody was awake, it would be pretty boring and the world, I don't think, would be able to function. So when people talk about this mass awakening in terms of everybody being awake all the time, I don't even know if human civilization could even function from that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it could now because
But you function,
so much. Yeah, that's true though. Yeah, so I guess.
Yeah,
but
I mean, when it comes to it, you can,
yeah,
you can switch on your computer and you can do all that. That seems to be then it comes when it's on the case and it just comes in the foreground and you do it.
Yeah.
Still possible.
Yeah, everything's just
Probably.
happening. So I imagine maybe we've had enough unawakening, we've had enough suffering go around within humanity that maybe we could all wake up and nothing would fall down. Who knows?
I don't know.
But I think the primary goal.
But do you think it would be?
Is to have whoever you think you are, have that wake up. Because if you wake up, there's no problem anywhere else all of a sudden. There's nothing to fix anywhere.
But what do you think? Like, I mean, from your experience here, do you think like if the so-called normal person would wake up, is the increase of energy and all? I mean, I just had small experiences through implication of 5-MeO, which I completely overdid or something, and then I had a puff from a skunk joint, and I just literally went to the village to get a beer, and I made it to the first bend, and then I just was able, I think because of my years of psychedelic experience, I was just able to get back home, and the only way to survive was telling other people what was happening to me, so that I could understand why I was explaining what was happening to me. I got a sense myself what was happening to me. I didn't have a clue what was happening to me. So while explaining, and the energy was so strong and it was everywhere. And I felt like I put some boots on, which I never tried on beforehand. And it was just like, it felt on the brink. I'm sure surrender would have helped, but that wasn't possible in my system. So I wonder, like, if you think like, I don't know what happened to you, but if it suddenly comes rushing in, it would be probably very confusing to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I mean, some people, I mean, it depends on, it happens differently for each person or each human. I had multiple different experiences. So like when I was 24, I had, in like my early 20s, I experimented with psychedelics and things. But when I was 24, I had a full-blown Kundalini awakening. And when I was 27, I saw this geometrical shape made of light. And then about 5 months after that, I was 27 and experienced awakening. And there was an energetic component to that shift in perspective. But awakening itself is very, very, very calm.
Calm.
Very calm. The calmest experience I've ever had. It wasn't mind-blowing. It wasn't particularly trippy. It was just very calm. It's like the opposite of a seizure.
That's interesting. I like that. Because there's something happening. I mean, there is something happening to me, because usually I just noticed the way how the character deals with it, my character. Sometimes I don't like that non-dual speak, because it does my head in. I find it a bit like, you can do anything because it's just a character. I don't know. Anyway, but I experienced a little bit. I noticed that in the moment I get some attention in a way that people like telling me or pay praises that I'm supporting them, and usually I advise to listen to some other teacher or something, and that's probably still a good idea, but I noticed that I'm not doing that much anymore. It's like the light comes towards you and you're just deflecting, there's an acknowledge. There seems to be a simple acknowledgement. I'm still believing what I think and all that stuff, but there's a simple acknowledgement of myself or something, of this here or so, and I didn't have that beforehand. I just couldn't,
Yeah.
There was,
Yeah.
there was still a doubt.
It's the type of, it's kind of Nietzschean in a way, it's like if nobody at all is ever an authority figure, then everyone is. Nobody actually knows more about this than you do anyway. So fuck it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. But it was just a habitual way of deflecting. I would always talk.
Yeah.
I would always talk about teachers, would praise them, and and they say, like, if you put the guru too high, then you can't reach him. And I was just. And the putting the high was always putting this character down. I was just so used.
Exactly.
Even though I'm
That's
very
what I was just gonna say. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I was used to attract it. I'm attracting attention very fast, but I actually behind it, I was hiding behind the openness. I was, it's like a clown or something. That was, some people do it that way. And that seems to stop. So I wouldn't also talk to. It's really interesting for me to have met you. There's something different about meeting you than meeting. I don't know. I just really liked you, and the way I've more right from the beginning. I had more the feeling of a friend.
Yeah. And, exactly. Yeah.
That's quite different to me, So it's
yeah.
That I meet you, and the way we are talking is I'm not usually I would just project, like, So that's comfortable, like, it's
there's like a instinctual element of trust, and that allows a safe space for openings to occur. And there's also, like you said, like there's also like the personal friend type vibe, or just the approachability, or
But what I meant is that usually I would want something from you. It would have been my past, something what I assume I don't have, like, even though I know, yes, but it's still that problem still running.
As if it could be given.
Yeah. As it could be away from me, something,
I on the one hand, I want to tell people that that talking to me would hopefully get them 1 inch closer to it, and yet on the other hand, it's right here right now as this. How could you get closer to it? You're appearing as everything. How could you get closer than
close? I like that analogy. Like, that's how I live my life till now. Like, that the analogy that you go to the wall and you always take half the distance. And you seemingly get closer, never touch it.
Yeah, what was that called? Zeno's arrow or something like that in philosophy. Talking about you never. Yeah, there's no time and space. There's no cause and effect. There's no separation. And
that's in part still, but that's still in part an idea to me. That's I can't see that clearly, but that's fine too. Like, as such,
it's weird because part of the spiritual journey is extremely intuitive, and part of it's extremely counterintuitive. You might read something like Buddhism and totally agree with everything in it, and then you get to the no self part, and the mind wants to shut down, get distracted, change gears, run away, hide. But it's true. There's no self. That's the key to enlightenment.
But there's no self.
There's nobody here. There's nobody there. Nobody in this one, nobody in that one.
Mm.
And that's the scariest possible imaginable thought for the mind.
Mm.
So it inherently is gloomy and terrifying and spooky. It's not. It seems that way. It seems spooky, terrifying, annihilating. What do you mean nothing? It's liberation. This is your freedom. This is enlightenment. This is what you are all along, outside of time and space, in time and space. All of it. You're appearing as everything, even though you're a formless, infinite, eternal, timeless, clear, empty awareness.
It's interesting. Like when you talk, the words, yeah, they do not touch me. I don't know what to say. They do. What do they do? I don't know. I would say that maybe I'm defending or something. Or the words. I don't know.
It's like on the one hand, awareness is not this separate thing. It's not a noun, but there is this background awareing,
yeah,
like a gerund background,
yeah,
all along, all the time, always in the background, awareing this invisible, formless witness.
yeah.
And then there's all these things spontaneously just seeming to arise.
I'm in contact with that awareing, but they're still also believing like somewhere. But it's also there. It's a funny thing. Also, how the words, when you say the words, I how can I say, I hear them. I hear the words, but they don't mean anything. Like, and I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there may
That's
be
because they don't mean
two-dimensional.
anything. You have good ears then, huh?
Yeah.
You're hearing very clearly if you didn't hear anything.
But it's a long time going, but it's yeah, it's very soft coming in at the moment, like, and it has a kind of celebratory kind of feeling or something, like we heard music
gratitude,
birds
bliss.
yeah.
Yeah, when awakening first occurred here, it felt like attending my own funeral, as if Andrew was my closest family member and had just died, and I was mourning their loss. And then on the other hand, it was like the most ideal, perfect fantasy of the best birthday party you never had. It's like every year you have your expectations and your birthday doesn't, never quite goes perfectly for anybody. It never quite celebrates who you really are. And yet this was like attending your own funeral and mourning the loss of this deep family member that has your name and your history and your everything. And now they're dead and you know it, and yet you're celebrating this new life, this celebratory feeling, because there's no suffering. It's like being born again. A sage is like, upon awakening, that's your real birthday. That's, you finally have like baby eyes again. A sage, a newborn sage. And then you have to relearn how to talk and how to walk and and what words mean.
Yeah, could something is in process anyway. It feels comfortable, and it's good to. It's very for him.
Yeah, that's really the purpose of life. There really isn't a purpose of life, but if there was one, it would be to enjoy it as deeply as possible.
And it's a kind of it's very much a celebration. Also, it's Yeah, it's pretty cool where it all, like when I was in Germany, I thought, because of my self-depreciation, so when I was in Germany, I saw my brother who's well organized, I did leave Germany for nothing because as you can hear, I'm very talkative. So when I came to Ireland, I didn't know all that. You project to the place where you're going, moving to, especially if you have issues as many as I had, then you project all your beauty. It's a bit like awakening. You project it all to the future country, and then it takes maybe 7 to 10 years to find out that it's all the same in
Yeah,
wherever you are, so
exactly.
to speak.
I had that
But
experience a few
nevertheless,
times where I'd move somewhere
nevertheless, the taste.
beautiful. Yeah. And then that wears
Yeah,
off. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I can live anywhere. I talk to everyone, but I'm a bit of a gypsy that way, But I do the Irish way of being is very close to Hautic. So yet I project everything, and yet I came really home here in that regard with humanness. I'm 30 years here, and I still have old Irish friends from that time we are still hanging out with because I'm just more relaxed. It's just they have
Yeah.
a natural spiritual sense which is built in. It's really funny, like, and
Yeah, it's like a druidic vibe, very laid
yeah,
back.
I don't know where is that. It's really weird. I don't think you have it. You have it also a bit with Irish people who left, but it's more with the guys when they're here, and so that's very comforting to me. And this
Yeah.
openness, they appreciate my openness. Whereas you go in Germany in a shop, you buy a chainsaw or whatever, and then you keep talking for more than 2 minutes, then they start looking at you. Why is
Yeah.
he still talking? And
It's robotic in a way.
here's the opposite. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's more like they're not like that.
It's like
They're more tight
Kraftwerk.
and they have
We
other
are the
qualities.
robots.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And but they're also very sincere and very straight in a way, But the
Yeah,
Irish, you
yeah.
stop talking after 2 minutes, they get offended then because it's
Yeah.
not polite to stop the conversation just like that.
Right, right.
Yeah. So when I was back and seeing my brother and how they work, and I always looked up to them, they were successful and whatever. Then
Yeah.
now the way how I am, how I find myself now in my life, I'm delighted it worked out that way. There used to be a bit of envy or something, and now I can see, my age, you can see it worked out all right. I'm pretty loose.
Yeah, it really is only about enjoyment. And you see somebody like Donald Trump who has $1 billion, and he finally becomes this important thing he wanted to be. He's still miserable. He's still 4 a.m.
Yeah,
suffering, tweeting all his miseries. So
yeah,
money isn't,
yeah,
money can go a long way toward happiness on certain levels, but once your basic needs are met, money doesn't really
yeah,
increase
yeah.
happiness
Then,
that much at
yeah,
all. So
yeah, 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 yeah. I clicked that too. Yeah, yeah. We are so far covered here. Yeah, it's pretty comfortable,
yeah, I've never really had
and we have
money.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Same here. I mean, I have
yeah,
enough. We have a small self-built thing here, and in Ireland, the inspectors are also not well functioning, so you just build without planning, and no one complains, and so it's very comfortable. Like, and you
ah,
can make it as you like it. It's off-grid and
yeah,
stuff. Bit hippyish, but
nice.
it's very comfortable actually. And
Yeah. That's the thing that most normal people, I don't think they understand that if they got everything they think they want,
yeah,
they'd still be suffering.
yeah, 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 yeah,
They still wouldn't be able to enjoy it.
yeah. But that's the functioning of the mind, huh? Like projecting a
Yeah,
goal and then running after it. And as soon as you have it,
right.
it's like me smoking a cigarette, wanting the cigarette. Once I smoke the cigarette, I want another one or want something else. And it's just like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a simulation where there has to be a reason for the character to move around and do things. Like, oh, the body's thirsty, got to go get some water. Oh, now I have to pee, got to go relieve myself. Oh, now the body's hungry, got to go get some food. Oh, better get to work. Oh, now I got to go to sleep. Like there's always some carrot on a stick to keep the movement occurring.
But what do you think? As such, there's just movement, and then there's an overlying, and the mind overlays it with a story, or is it? How is it working?
So there's this background, pristine awareness, and non-duality people are gonna have a fit if they listen to this and hear me say that. Yeah. No, what do you mean pristine? You're implying that impurity is a bad thing. No, I'm not. You're implying that awareness is a separate noun thing. No, I'm not. I'm just talking using words. So there's this pure awareness, background witness. And it's not doing anything, it's just witnessing. And then the animal body that is a human is just spontaneously behaving.
Yeah.
And there's nobody here.
Yeah.
There's nobody here to suffer. And it seems like from the outside, there's somebody still here. Seems like there's got to be somebody in there choosing and doing things. Sometimes there aren't even thoughts, but speech occurs. Sometimes there's no thought, yet movement of the body occurs. And it's these moments that reveal quite clearly and evidently that there's no such thing as free will or a separate self. There's just the majesty of nature orchestrating itself as a dream. So who you really are isn't a someone. So who you are is the wrong question. If I say, who am I? That implies that I already assume that I'm a someone. What kind of someone am I? No. If you go looking for the self, you might find the fact that there isn't a self to find. Or another way to put it, there's two ways to put this. There's the way too cute and cuddly way to put it, and the way too dark and gloomy way to put it. The way too cute and cuddly way to put it is that you are this formless, absolute, eternal, infinite awareness. And it's invisible, and it's clear and compassionate, unconditionally limitless. And then the spooky way of putting it is that there's nobody here. So your true nature is so close to emptiness that if we say you don't have an essence, or if we say your essence is emptiness, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's a clarity, there's an awareness, there's a compassion, it's all there. But the emptiness is really hitting home. What awakening is the realization of emptiness. It's the realization of no self. And the mind cannot accept that.
It's very interesting to me when you talk what the mind is doing,
It's fighting me.
Yeah, it's yeah.
It might even kill me.
Yeah, it's sending thought. It's just but it's very present, and then the energy is very present, and the mind is just I don't know. It runs around somewhere here, so it's just
it wants to run away.
Yeah, it's disorientating and and thoughts for words for more two-dimensional, something like that. I can't explain it, but it's just it's switching off. You're trying to switch off or something,
Yeah, it's the mind when it encounters this message directly and clearly, it will almost do anything in its power to end the conversation. It'll It'll try to form an imaginary distraction story over here that I have to immediately attend to. I'm sorry, I have to go. It'll do whatever it can to run away and to hide from the clarity and directness of this message. And the mind is programmed to reject this when it's directly presented.
Yeah, of course.
It's trying to protect the delusion that it exists, or rather that you are somehow identified or stuck to the mind or the self. There is no mind. There is no mind.
It's I don't know what to say. It's just and the thing is that I'm getting too relaxed to usually I was like in like already a year ago I was in South India, and then whatever, and then we had Zoom sessions with Deva, and there were maybe 80 people on, and I always had to kick up some joke or it was funny or something, And since a few months, like 2 months, 3 months, it's actually I just go quiet, and it's quite nice. Like it's less exhausting, and there's more acknowledgement in it. It's actually really funny. Sorry, because Deva he slept then with some of his girl disciples, so we call them, or one of like people like me, of course, prettier. And then he wasn't honest about it. And then eventually but the people around him are pretty mature. Sometimes they do a little bit too much for me here as a non-dual speak, but generally they're pretty mature. So they gave him hell, which was, I love that. I love women, and they gave him hell, and he still didn't acknowledge. They gave him more hell, and then eventually he acknowledged it. And the interesting bit is then half of the Sangha left, but they're still, as he said, they're still doing their work, so there's no loss. And he likes small circles anyway. And the funny thing is, since that happened, he's even more relaxed. He's more relaxed. And since he acknowledged it, I was fine. There was with consent. That's important to me. But or I have no issues with it.
Yeah, I think radical honesty is the most important part of it, all in a way.
Yeah. But since then, he is more relaxed. And I feel closer to him. He said himself, no, the pedestal is gone. No, we're all the same, and there is, I feel closer to him, and it's very, very pleasant now. It's a funny effect. I really love that story. It's in a way, it's pretty cool, and and that also stopped me from putting him higher. I don't know. It's just very nice. The meeting is very nice now.
Yeah, that's it's funny because it's a form of mastery. You know what I mean? It sounds like a slip up. It sounds like a flaw, but it's really just if you're that open and that radically honest, and you're not trying to hide anything, even exhibiting openly narcissistic tendencies or anything, as long as you're being radically honest.
It's a very good move.
Upon awakening, one thing I would say is that I was never openly exhibiting narcissistic tendencies until awakening. It's like once you finally are encountered with your own beauty, and you realize the whole world is composed of nothing but mirrors.
Nice. But then you were in a way lucky for people like me. When we listen to you, you probably had you weren't the guy who had to compensate in that way. I'm sure there are quite a few people who wake up and really go off the rails because they just feel this extra.
Because they can. Because they finally gave themselves permission to be anything. So it's exactly, I was going to say it's exactly like, but it exactly is being a wild animal.
Yeah.
So the awakened
What do you mean?
state is being a
Yeah.
wild human and not a domesticated one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
as
I get
children,
that,
we
because
are in that wild
because,
state, and then we get conditioned out of it,
yeah,
and then sometimes we return to it.
yeah. I get that. Yeah. Because the conditioning is gone. So there's a natural kind of free flow. Yeah.
So the conditioning and its effects are still, there's still like remnants of it, but it's not actually controlling anything anymore. Or should I say, there's suddenly no self-judgment. There's suddenly no guilt, suddenly no shame, suddenly no embarrassment, no matter what. And so, how an individual brain may react to that is going to vary a little bit.
How did your environment react to that?
What's that?
How did your human environment react to that? The people who knew you from before, or so, like the people
I mean,
around
I was
you?
the type of guy, I was already the type of guy that was kind of weird, kind of a little wild.
Yeah.
And always rambling about this stuff anyway. So on a certain level, I don't think anyone would really even notice, but there's also this very intense clarity all of a sudden out of the blue that is easily detectable by anybody that actually talks about this in depth to someone like me, for example. And that clarity, or that it would be probably perceived as wisdom, but what it is actually clarity. And to suddenly be that clear about everything, about the nature of reality, etc., it's very evident. And yet the mind, even though it wants to accept and explore that and have that, the mind also is trying to shut all that down and to stay unawake, because it's been conditioned to do so. It's like a self-policing mechanism.
Yeah.
And it's just doesn't have a choice. It's just kind of forced to be stuck in that. And so the real you, if you will, is trying to return to itself, and then the fake you is trying to convince you that you're the fake you. And it's probably going to win because it's real clever. See, cleverness isn't that good.
And it's almost and the fake you is also kind of rougher. It's more gross.
Oh yeah.
So that
brutal.
More
brutal.
Brutal. So it makes for good distraction.
Yeah, it's like a con artist or a magician. It's perfectly good at misdirection. As soon as you get close, no, go way over here. Go take a sharp right angle into the woods now. And it'll do anything it can to genuinely convince you not to have this conversation. Especially if it gets real clear and real direct. And so it doesn't mind so much when it hears words like awareness and clarity. It likes those words. No one, nobody, no self. Ooh, it hates those. No free will. Ooh, it hates that one.
Yeah, but I'm such a spiritual conditioned seeker that those words are already like they're just part of its repertoire,
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Someone like you or me is fortunate once they've reached the point where those words no longer trigger us. Because when I was a frustrated seeker, I was triggered by radical non-duality. I didn't like it. And now I'm a non-duality speaker.
But
I'm using the same recycled words.
Yeah. But I'm a frustrated seeker for fucking hell. 40 years or something like that. Yeah, 40 years. 40 years, yeah, something like this.
Yeah.
So I have
yeah,
it all
enjoyment.
through,
It's really, so as you get closer to it, it becomes easier and easier and more effortless. And once awakening occurs, the deepening of awakening just automatically happens. It's just spontaneous and effortless. It's just from the seeking mind's perspective that there's this intense efforting going on at all times. But it's a very contrived, forced perspective, the seeking mind. It's a constructed, fabricated perspective. It's not real.
Yeah. I'm just asking, where am I now? Like, it's also with the time you tell me, like whenever you get, you let me know.
Yeah, I got to get going here in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. And where am I now? But I'm here, like, Nice to be
It's like, yeah. You hear like Ram Dass, he writes a book called Be Here Now. It's the opposite of that. There's no being, there's no here or there, and there's no now or then or later. There's no time. So there's no being, there's no here, and there's no now. Becoming nobody. There we are. Now that's closer. Now he's getting there.
That's yeah, but I maybe I'm so conditioned by already think like becoming nobody is a relief, like.
Yeah, and that's the thing, if your brothers would have a harder time waking up, if you know what I mean, because how to put that? Another way to put that is like somebody like Donald Trump can't wake up. Their identity is too tied to the sense of importance, too tied to wealth, too tied to power, too tied to ignorance. That what enlightenment requires is to have everything taken from you, including you. Who would want that? Only somebody suffering quite a bit. So you're not really primed for awakening unless you feel really, really isolated and really, really alone, and you're suffering really, really deeply, and you're particularly brilliant. Then you're going to be wanting that enlightenment thing.
Or some people, I mean, there seems to be also quite a few people who stumble about it like by accident, pick up a ball or something happens to them,
Yeah.
I think that happens to at times. I don't know. Maybe they did some work in their former lives, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say if it even works that way. It's hard to say. I don't want to err on either side of that.
Yeah. And one question: does anything come to you? I have found quite a few women that is not like I'm not in terms of sexual attraction or being a porn or whatever, but I have with quite a few women a very strong connection, like something I can't explain to you. It's just it's surprising me. I just talked to a friend on the phone, and she and then the woman walks up the way. Another friend she only turned up recently. She usually works in Washington D.C. and I feel like this old connection I have with quite a few women. Like I have this very strong.
It's probably got a lot to do with like on a certain level, you don't want or need anything from them on a certain level. And they can sense that level, and they can also sense that you're that instinctually you can be trusted.
No, I get that. But it's more, where is that coming from? I'm more surprised, not surprised, how can I say, because I always had women friends in my life, but not so surprised that they trust me or that it's a close, but it's this, something is pointing towards something and I can't work it out. It's not
it's like the feminine sensitivity vibe. It's
Yeah.
like awakening is like a butterfly. So there's
Yeah.
this, you could be this really macho guy and then undergo awakening, and now you're comfortable expressing femininity all of a sudden. So the closer you get
Yeah.
to the awakened state, especially as a guy, the more comfortable you are with the sensitive, feminine, loving, all for the group, all encompassing type
Yeah.
vibe.
That makes sense.
Because a lot of guys march around like macho guys because they're
Yeah. It
afraid.
was never like that. I mean, women always like
Because
me
they're
because
afraid.
I have this link with them. Not again. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, of course,
Right.
I fancy women also.
Yeah.
But I tend to link up with strong women. So I get
Yeah.
clear messages there.
Yeah.
And but now it's that would make sense. Like
It's kind of like
so it's
embodying
nice.
both masculine and feminine vibes at the same time. There's a type of completion to that, so that every sense of self that doesn't experience that completion would be drawn to that because it has the missing piece of that, no matter who they are. So if you exhibit completion, everyone wants a piece. They want whatever they're missing.
Yeah, it feels a bit like that. It's almost like some people employ me as a gardener just to they one hand they like what I'm doing, on the other hand they like to have me around.
Right.
But anyway.
But yeah,
nice,
I do have to get going now, but we'll definitely have to talk again soon.
Oh, yeah. And how do I get your donation over to you?
Oh, I'll send you a link if you want to do that. I'll send you a PayPal email or something. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And
that's fine.
I'll talk to you about scheduling the next time we can talk. I'm usually available every Wednesday, so.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure talking to you. It was good to finally talk.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's I do. It helps understanding. Yeah, and I feel it. I mean, I feel it. Anyway, I let you go.
Yeah.
Thank you
We'll
very
talk
much.
again soon. Thank you.
See you. Bye.